Malcolm's an Arsenal fan. Morning, Jim. Martin and Simon missing the point here. It's a continuation that's been criticised. This is regards England under Southgate. Not the game. Players out of form, out of position, lacking direction, zero proactive substitutions until it's too late. It's like Groundhog Day, says Malcolm, the Arsenal fan. Has he got a point?
I think he has some of a point, yeah. But I think that to extrapolate it up to be an overriding criticism in this particular game, I think is unnecessary. I don't really care how England play in the qualification. I more care. I know that things momentum build and you want to see a team that's playing fluidly and you want to see a team that's operating in an offensive manner. But I'm only interested, once we've qualified, in getting to a tournament and seeing how we perform in a tournament. These are international managers, and an England manager should be judged upon his tournament record and not necessarily the qualification.
Qualification important though, Martin, how you play in it?
Of course. I mean, the better you play, the chances are you're going to win football matches. It's really as simple as that. However, yeah, I'm not into the progression. There is progression in the England squad, but it doesn't necessarily mean because there's a setback, they've drawn away from home against Ukraine in a qualifying game, that progression has stopped. I don't take that point. I've never taken it. And Simon's absolutely spot on. It's the qualification of the competition. Once you get there, how you perform at that tournament is the most important thing. You might get a little bit of luck early on in proceedings as you grow into a tournament, but it's how you finish these particular tournaments. And England have done well in the tournaments up to, and Simon might make a point, eventually, if if they can finally crush it and go on and take the big trophy, that's fine. But in terms of progression, I think that point's been missed. You can actually have a bit of a setback. If Saka turns inside, hits the crossbar with about 15 minutes to go, if that goes into the net, England end up winning the game, and a continuation of 100% points. So.
But Martin, what many England fans will be saying this morning, they don't need me to say it for them, is that progression's one thing, but progression isn't anything if you don't win a trophy at the end of it.
That's true, but there's time. Yeah, but this is not a time for winning trophies. This is a time for qualification for the competition. And if you get there, and people will not remember how you performed, during the course of qualification. It's how you do in the competition.
Yeah. You're not arguing with that, and I see what Martin's saying. No, to be honest, no one's if Kane holds that trophy in Germany, Simon, over his head, no one's going to remember 1-1 against Ukraine, right?
There are people that are entranced in their positions, aren't they? And there are people that will have a view of Gareth Southgate. I have a view that I don't think he has the winning gene, that little bit of alchemy that separates a good manager from a manager that's capable of doing something quite miraculous, which is winning England a trophy. Because it is, when you think about it. Given the fact that we've got the biggest domestic league and given the huge investment in the game in this country, it is quite embarrassing that we haven't really performed in tournaments over 56 years. And of course, what we're now doing is saying, let's be grateful for actually turning up in tournaments because we've stunk the place out over the previous years with a few notable exceptions. Venables in 96 and maybe Sven-Göran Eriksson in 2002. But other than that, our national side during the 70s and parts of the 80s has been very poor, and even into the 90s. So the problem is that we set ourselves low standards and managed to achieve them previously. But I also think there needs to be a bit of balance and fairness, because there's lots of things about Southgate that have enhanced and improved the situation. But there are people that are entrenched in their position. It doesn't matter what Gareth will do, will have their view that he doesn't take risks. He's boring. This team plays in a boring fashion. He's not proactive in his thinking, and no matter what he does, they'll double down on that sort of outlook the moment something doesn't quite go the way that they think it should.
A lot of people are surprised to hear Simon speak like this morning, Martin, and maybe yourself as well. I mean, I'm looking at some of the messages coming in. Jordan's lost the plot. Anyone that thinks it's acceptable to have Bellingham playing the left wing, Henderson and Maguire starting, and basically having three holding midfielders on the pitch is either ignorant or didn't watch the game. I mean, he's coming in for it this morning. Tactically, he's coming in for it. No.
Well, I'm in Simon's camp here in this one, because there might have been an element to Gareth Southgate's thinking. Well, listen here, might be an opportunity for, and I'll put this in inverted commas, experiment. Maybe players in different positions. He mentions himself, Gareth, that he didn't have everybody. There was a few changes, a few injuries. I think there was a debut given to the centre half, Gahey, I think, who actually looked as if he did okay in the game. And but no, I'm getting back to the point. They've drawn. Everything didn't go as according to plan. That happens in football.
But Simon's saying, Martin, that Southgate's yet to demonstrate he's got a winning gene. Do you go with that? Is there such a thing?
Well, if you Simon's speaking from a very, very lofty position. The winning gene, if that means actually winning the World Cup or winning the European Championship, well, he's right in that sense. England have the capabilities of winning, but sometimes even if you're the better side on a day, you can get beaten, and you can get beaten in a big competition. I'll go back to my point in the quarterfinals. Just my view. That had Harry Keown scored the second penalty, I thought that the momentum was with England. I might be wrong. France might have scored in the next minute. It's just my view. But at that stage, it looked as if the momentum was with them.
Is it your view that Southgate's an elite manager, Martin?
Gareth Southgate has taken over. He has had some. He's had some experience with Middlesbrough, and he's landed the job with England. And I think the job, he's qualified for the competitions. They went very, very close to the World Cup.
Man? Is he elite? You know what I mean by elite?
Well,
Pep's elite. Ferguson was elite. Of course he was.
Of course. Well, eventually elite means going on to win the big tournament.
Yeah, right, a serial winner.
So, serial winner. Well, serial winners is easier in the sense for club managers because it's happening more often. Serial winners for international managers every 2 and every 4 years. So if that's the case,
Would you say that if he's had 4 tournaments, and we are making observation, it's not a particularly lofty position, it's a statement of facts. If you're in a position to win, and you have opportunities against the Croatians in a World Cup semi-final, and you don't take them.
Yeah.
You have the opportunities against the Italians in a European Championship home final, and you don't take them. And you have a similar situation against the French. All of them, then you reach a point where someone says, okay, does this go on in perpetuity? So if he doesn't win the next tournament, would you say that 4 tournaments, 4 goes at it, is a fair attempt for an England manager, and maybe a change is something that might be required?
He may well think that himself. I'll get back to the point. Terry Venables did not win the European Championships in 1996.
Yeah.
Terry Venables was a brilliant manager. Brilliant manager. That's my point. He didn't win it. He didn't win the competition when he had at his disposal some of the finest players that England had produced in the last century, never mind anything else. They didn't go on to do it. Was Terry blamed for that there? Not necessarily. It was just a little bit of luck. That's just my view. Terry Venables I think Terry Venables was one of the most innovative managers that has been in the game. Never mind anything else. Terrific manager.
But Gareth doesn't match up to that, does he?
To
get back to Simon's point, if England don't win in Germany, Martin, would that be enough to signal that Gareth had a stab at it for long enough?
I think Gareth Southgate has actually hinted on the fact that the next tournament might be his last tournament if that's the case. And if they don't go on to win it, he might go on to have a think about that. That's the point. And I'm not disputing what Simon is saying. Sure. I'm just trying to look at it.
But there's nothing particularly controversial in what I'm saying.
No, absolutely.
And the question was, is he an elite manager? We both know, whether you want to be diplomatic about it, he's not going to walk out of this England manager's job into a top 6 job. There's not going to be one of the top 6 clubs in the English Premier League saying, I tell you what, I'll take him. He's not going to go to Arsenal, won't be going to Liverpool, won't be going to Man City or Man United. Yeah. So then we ask the question of ourselves. The question is very simple. Is he an elite manager? Has he done a good job? Yes, he's done a good job in lots of spaces. And it's unfair to separate the two and say good over here gets compartmentalised and forgotten about and bad only gets highlighted. I agree with you that we spend too much time, there's too much propensity to focus on the bad. But he's an England manager with a really good group of players that's had 3 good opportunities. And if he gets a 4th and he doesn't take it, then the accusations will land and they'll stick. And there's a fairness to that as well.
I'm not disagree with that.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.